This is simple Tic Tac Toe, built with Svelte. This one is an ultimate Tic Tac Toe, which is also built with Svelte. In this video, I follow my own advice to build a board game in 4 different levels. And here we are at level 1, building a base client. But the question is, why Svelte? The simple answer is that at this level, any framework will do, or you don't even need a framework, to be honest. You can just go with vanilla JavaScript. But since I don't know how the project will evolve in the future, the best option would be to pick some sort of a meta framework like SvelteKit or Next or Next. Maybe you want to go with Astro HTMX. The point is that with a meta framework from the beginning, we will have better options in the future, so that maybe we want a good SEO on the homepage, or we want to introduce some server-side rendering on some of the pages. Maybe we want to generate all the pages statically. So meta framework will allow us this flexibility in the future. And since I normally use React, I decided to use a SvelteKit just to try and see how it feels. So what is Ultimate Tic Tac Toe? Ultimate Tic Tac Toe is a variation over the normal Tic Tac Toe, where the idea is we play at the 9 small Tic Tac Toe boards at the same time. So the player who wins 3 small Tic Tac Toe games, either vertically or horizontally or diagonally, wins the game. But the game itself is played with a twist. When one player makes a move, let's say Circle will make a move at the bottom corner. So the position at which that player put his mark dictates the next game field on which the next player should play. So since Circle placed in the bottom left corner, then X must play at the bottom left game. When the X play at the top right corner, now Circle has to play at the top right game. When there is a situation when the next player should play on a game that is finished by either one of the player winning that game or because there was a draw, then they can play on any other not finished game. So if the Circle will put in the bottom left corner, since it was already a finished game, Axis can put a mark on any other unfinished game field. As I have already mentioned, starting from a meta framework will allow me a lot of flexibility in the future with how I want to develop this application. So any meta framework will probably do. What I liked about SvelteKit is that it comes with ESLint and Prettier and TypeScript right out of the box, which is amazing if we want to build a maintainable application. And so, since essentially the Ultimate Tic Tac Toe is just a combination of 9 small Tic Tac Toe games, the first step would be to build this normal Tic Tac Toe game. SvelteKit uses the file-based routing similar to Next.js. So what I have started with is that for this simple application, I just need only single page. And with the SvelteKit, we create a page by applying this plus sign in front of the name, and page itself is a reserved word, I guess. And if I'm not mistaken, plus page is kind of reserved syntax. So the page describes a page. Layout describes a layout that will be common to all the pages in this route or any subroutes. So effectively, in our case, this layout defines across the whole application. And here a slot is something that will turn into current page in the router. So in our case, it will be content of the plus page.svelte. In the layout, I used normalized CSS just to unify default CSS settings for all the browsers. And I decided that every page will be within this div with the class app that will consume the whole width of the application, and it will consume all the viewport height at minimum. Also, it will display date as a grid with content placed to a center. The game state is tracked as basically an array of 9 digits. I have decided to store -1 to describe that nobody yet put a mark there, or when there is still no winner. Then there is 0 and 1 for player 1 and 2. And there is also a possible value 2, which would mean a draw. So then we can visualize that array of numbers by using this each iterator, and we just convert each of these we just map all of those numbers into cells. And when all the buttons are just placed inside the div, we can use here a game container class, which basically also display grid that has 3 columns and 3 rows with a gap of 1 pixel and certain minimum width and minimum height. Then each cell is a box with a center content, and they just apply 2 classes. Class circle when current cell contains 0, and class cross if the current cell contains a value 1. And then the visualization of circle and a cross happens purely through CSS by using pseudo classes before and after. For circle, we just create 2 rounded rectangles, dark one and then white one on top. And for the cross, we use 2 rectangles that we rotate 45 degrees. And because the cell uses display flex with justified content and align item to the center, all these elements appear in the center. I have tried to use grid instead, but unfortunately, grid and position absolute somehow doesn't work together to achieve the same effect. Then finally, there is a function. Anytime any button here is clicked, we pass the index of this cell so that we can check after placing the mark. We check for win condition, and then if the winner is decided, so it's either 0, 1 or 2, the result will be shown on top. So here player 1 wins, and we place the result on top using the grid area trick. The game container and the overlay describing the game result, they are both placed inside the container, and the container is a grid with just 1 row and 1 column, and then each one of these inner divs, the game result overlay and game container, they both define this grid area that they consume all the parent grid. So in most of the browsers, what will happen in this situation is that elements that come later, they will be placed on top, but for some reason it was not respected in the Safari. So unfortunately, it was not that much of a trick anymore at this point, since I had to add explicit z index 1 to the game result overlay. Since I'm using TypeScript here, I have defined a few types. First of all, there is type no winner, that is an alias to -1. There is also a type player, which either 0 or 1. Then there is a type called draw. So then we can construct an interesting types when we could say that the cell state could be either player or no winner, because cell cannot contain a draw, but the game state could be either one of the player, it could be no winner when the game just starts, or it could be a draw. And then the board is just an array of cell states, meaning either players or no winners. Then it was time to convert it to a final result. In order to transform a simple tic-tac-toe into this ultimate tic-tac-toe, the main changes were changing how the game board is built. And the game board now is not just an array of 9 numbers, but it's 9 array of 9 numbers. So the board now is array of arrays. And when the player clicks some cell, we need to first of all detect which board the click has occurred on, and then which cell index. Then we check that board on which the turn has happened for a winning condition, and then we store the result in the game board results. Since then we can use exactly the same check win function, but against the accumulated results of all the boards played in order to determine a winner. And then the final most interesting bit here was to determine which field you can play on. Since, as I have mentioned, by the game rules, the position at which the current player plays describes the coordinates or the small tic-tac-toe board at which the next player gonna play. So then we would need to check if the next board to play is already in some winning condition. So it's either one of the players won that game or it was result in a draw. In a sense, probably check win, maybe not the best name of the function here. It's maybe like check the game finished or something like that. If the next small tic-tac-toe board to play doesn't have a winner yet, we gonna play there. Otherwise, we kind of enable all the boards to be able to play. But in the board itself, we would also check if this board is finished. So then we filter out on the board level itself whether it's playable or not. I will link the repository in the description below, so you can check it out for yourself. And the last final bit was to deploy everything to Netlify. And in order to do so, I had to install a package, SvelteJS adapter Netlify, since by default SvelteKit comes with some kind of adapter auto. But for Netlify, they have their own adapter called adapter Netlify. And with that adapter, you can do extra configurations specifically for Netlify. And then it also, that adapter is the one that helps Netlify to understand how to basically build and serve the SvelteKit application. And we also need to create Netlify toml that will describe what happens on the build. You can do it through the visual interface if you want, but it's always nice to do it through the configuration file if you can. We go to Netlify, your team configuration, you need to log into Netlify, and then you pick the add new site, import an existing project, deploy with GitHub. Then I find the project I want to deploy. In my case, it's Ultimate Tic-Tac-Toe. And when we pick that project, it asks us which branch we want to deploy from. So in this case, I just deploy from main, but maybe you want to have like a production branch or something like that. And also it picked up whatever we have provided in the Netlify toml, particularly the build command is pnpm build, and that the directory to be published after that would be a directory called build, which is the default configuration for which comes with this with SvelteKit combination. And then we just click deploy tic-tac-toe and it will deploy everything. Site deploy in progress, and then it will look something like this. Thank you for watching and see you next time.